as optimistic as the message boards at USCfootball.com. Ryan Abraham joins us right now. Ryan, thanks for coming on. What's up, man?
Not too much, yeah. Dealing with the message boards, you go from the highs of beating Michigan to the lows of losing to Notre Dame. The sky is falling or everything. They're going to win the national championship. It just depends what happens week to week.
Ryan, I was disappointed. I know Lincoln Riley is an elite play caller. He's as good at doing that as anybody. But I thought he had a bad night. I didn't like a lot of the calls, and I hated the flea flicker in the rain that Mekhi Lemon ended up fumbling. Is it fair? I know Lincoln Riley is as good at doing that as anybody. Is it fair to criticize him for what happened on Saturday?
I think 100%. He was asked a question about that play where they, were have Mekhi Lemon wearing gloves, like trying to throw the ball in the rain, and he fumbles, and it was a big momentum play. And Lincoln Riley just said it was a stupid call. He didn't even elaborate, just stupid call. And there was a few, there was a few that were just too cutesy for me, John, where it just looked like you were moving the ball through the air. Jaden Mayava throwing it, to Mekhi Lemon, to Jacoby Lane, and even some Tanook Hines. Like, that was working. They couldn't run the ball very well, but they had something that was working, and it seems like he would get away from it. And I thought he called a brilliant game against Michigan. He really kept a good defense on its toes. But I think Notre Dame was a team, just kind of like Illinois did. They tried to punch you in the mouth. They took away the run game. And I think he needed to be a little more disciplined in trying to keep going with what worked. But I think it's fair. He's a really good play caller, but it wasn't a good night for him.
But I think the major reason they lost that game was defense. I thought after they stuffed Michigan at the Coliseum, stopped the run, I thought they would be able to carry that over to this game. Instead, it looked like the Illinois game where they ran all over the USC defense. How much of this lays at the doorstep of Danton Lynn?
Yeah, a lot of it. I think for Illinois, Mace, they were throwing the ball really well, and Luke Altmaier had a career game. You can't allow that to happen. That's the quarterback. Well, against Notre Dame, now you allow Jeremiah Love a career game, 228 yards. In the history of the rivalry, that's the most any Notre Dame running back has ever run on USC. And Notre Dame running backs never run for 228 yards in Notre Dame Stadium before. So these are historic lows as far as the USC defense goes, and some great moments for Notre Dame there, but that you can't allow that to happen. The first play, to have a run go for 63 yards is just crazy. And I think to show how tough they were, I think Lincoln Riley took pride after the Michigan game saying, hey, we're a tough football team, because Illinois said they weren't. And then Michigan's, coaches saying they weren't. They showed that they had a lot of toughness against Michigan, but on the road again, they just did. It's hard to say this is a tough team when you give up 306 yards on the ground. So to me, that's where they lost this game. You can't expect the offense to be perfect, and they couldn't be. And with USC giving up the yards like that on the ground, that's just so easy for an opposing offense. You can't win a game like that.
Okay, Ryan, a lot of people obviously speculating that could be the last time we see USC play Notre Dame in a while. The game is not on the schedule next season, and they're arguing over whether or not this can continue. My understanding is, if Notre Dame was willing to move this game to the first 3 weeks of the season, it would save all this, that USC would agree to that, and then they would do it. But for some reason, Notre Dame's not agreeing to that. Do I have that story right?
That's from what we're hearing also, John, just where the USC, because of all the trips with the Big Ten, I just fly in there myself, and you fly all over the place, John, but, I've been to Chicago, Indianapolis, and Chicago in the last few weeks, and it's a lot, and I think they would much rather have that game. If it's in LA and you want to have it in November, that's fine. But if it's going to be in South Bend, I think they want to have it in the first couple weeks of the season. For Notre Dame, it's just harder to schedule great teams. They had two really good games, week 1, week 2. If USC is going to take one of those weeks, it might be harder to schedule a Texas A&M or Miami going forward. So I feel like it's one of those things where, they're going to come to some kind of agreement, and there's who needs it more, what, how are you going to make this work? I think the fans would be really upset if the game doesn't happen. So I think it's maybe just more of a game of chicken, but USC would prefer to have this moved earlier. That's my understanding.
Ryan, this season is going exactly like I thought it was going to go. I said at the beginning they would go 9-3 with losses at Illinois, at Notre Dame, and at Oregon. And I still think, you never know. They could steal the Oregon game. Do you feel like that's the way things are going, or have they started to slide?
No, I feel you're right. I think that they've showed that they can win at home, and you got Iowa at home, and Northwestern and UCLA looks pretty good now. But I would say that they handle their business at home. The road games have been tough. The Nebraska game after the bye week is going to be the one. Now, Nebraska just lost to Minnesota. I don't think they're that good, but USC doesn't play that well on the road. So I feel like I was thinking 8-4, Mason, the beginning of the season,
Yep.
but I think 9-3 is a little bit more. I think that's kind of where if they don't go 9-3, I think it's going to be disappointing. I don't think we knew that this was going to be an elite offense in the start of the season because they took a step back last year. It's been an elite offense still, and so I feel like you have that, you should be able to win more games. So I think 9-3 is where they need to be. If anything less than that, I think it's going to be pretty disappointing.
All right, Ryan, last thing for me. Mace mentioned the USC football message boards. Ryan runs USCfootball.com. The message boards have had it with Lincoln Riley. They're
kind of hilarious to read.
Yeah, they're really down on him. Let's throw red meat to the masses. Let's say they get what they want and USC gets rid of Lincoln Riley. Who do they want to replace him? I'm a UCLA grad. We don't know who we're getting next year. I think that if they fired Lincoln Riley, the big question would be who would be better? Do they suggest anyone or do they just complain about Lincoln?
Yeah, they're mostly complaining about Lincoln, especially right now when you have Florida open. You might have Florida State open. You already have Penn State open. There's a lot of activity now. We're seeing coaches get fired midseason. I think the way the offense bounced back and how much money he would be owed, it just seems like that's not going to happen unless they just fall apart and they start losing a bunch of games at the end of the season. And then Jen Cohen really doesn't have a choice in the matter. But, yeah, as far as candidates go, I mean, people throw out bring Urban Meyer back and stuff like that. But, yeah, it's hard to say. I think it would be interesting to see what Jen Cohen does if she had a coaching search. She's the one that brought in Kalen DeBoer at Washington, and he ended up leaving, going to Alabama. Like if Alabama tanked, then maybe you could bring Kalen DeBoer back. I don't know, but yeah, I don't think it's happening, John. And it would be a really interesting search. But I have more confidence in someone like Jen Cohen making a search because she's proved from the past that she can do a good search and find a good candidate.
By the way, I cannot imagine, even if it goes to 8-4, I cannot imagine they move off of Lincoln Riley. Given the fact,
I don't think 8-4 either.
You think they fall apart?
But here's the weird one, Ryan. What if they go 7-6 again? Is he safe?
Honestly, I don't think so because I think I think the expectation inside that building was 2026 was going to be the great year with the recruiting class and all that. But you can't throw away 2025 and seeing how good the offense is. Going 7-6 again after losing 6 games or whatever the last couple of years, you can't do that. So, I think there would be some kind of outrage, and the athletic department might have to scramble to try to make something happen. I just don't think you'd be able to keep people engaged, and you need them now more than ever. You need fans, the boosters to support you to spend money on the roster every year. I think you're going to lose a lot of them if you go 7-6. So yeah,
right.
I think they would have to try to figure something out.
Right. And at 9-3, if you can hold that class together, it's the number one recruiting class in the country. All of a sudden next year becomes very different, and they've got their NIL together, and Chad Bowden's doing a good job and all that stuff. I am optimistic. I might be the only SC fan that's optimistic, but I am optimistic about the rest of this season, Ryan. And by the way,
I think 9-3, that's achievable. And then you, like you said, you would have good momentum for the offseason. They just haven't had good momentum the last couple of years. Winning a bowl game is fine, but you want to win some games. So, 9-3, I think it's not the season you thought it could be, but, hey, that's still pretty good, and then you can build on it for 2026.
All right. Hey, Ryan, great having you on. Don't forget USCfootball.com. Visit the message boards. They are very entertaining, always. Thanks, Ryan.
Oh, thanks for having me on, guys. John, I'll try to see you at the game tonight.
Oh, wait, good. Yeah, stop by.
All right, there you have it. There's Ryan Abraham coming up next for you, Icebreaker.